It's Jono from Seneca, and today I'm going to be talking through the wonderful world of covalent bonding. And even though I have no chance of getting a date, I might be able to get a dative covalent bond. Ooh, so you have that to look forward to as well. This is going to build on some knowledge covered in previous episodes where I talked about ionic bonding, so make sure you check that out to get up to speed. But without further ado, let's dive into covalent bonding. Now, what is it? Covalent bonding happens between non-metals, and it's one that contains a shared pair of electrons, and usually each atom gives one electron to the bond. Molecules have covalent bonds holding the atoms together. Covalent bonds are strong because the shared electrons are attracted to the nucleus of both atoms. Remember, nucleus is where the protons are, so it's got a positive charge, electrons are negative. Now, multiple bonding. Ooh. So atoms can form double or even triple covalent bonds. Ooh. So an example is oxygen, that forms a double bond, and nitrogen forms a triple bond. There are some rare examples of like quadruple, quintuple, and even sextuple bonds between some heavy metal compounds, but I wouldn't worry too much about those. But make sure you know about oxygen and nitrogen. And multiple bonds contain shared pairs of electrons, just like single bonds, but multiple bonds are usually stronger than single bonds. So, what is the best way to describe a covalent bond? Can you remember the definition? It is a shared pair of electrons between two atoms, and it typically occurs between non-metal atoms. Okay? Now, dative covalent bonding. Now, a dative covalent bond is a special type of covalent bond. And it's a bond in which both electrons in the bond come from one atom. And they are sometimes called coordinate bonds. So you may have heard a dative covalent bond being called a coordinate bond. A really good example of this is the ammonium ion, which you'll come across a lot in A-level chemistry. So get used to her. She's going to be coming up a lot. And ammonium ions are made up of an ammonia molecule that is attached to a hydrogen ion with its lone pair. Remember, nitrogen in ammonia has a cute little lone pair of electrons in its outer shell, and both electrons can form a covalent bond from that nitrogen atom. So that lone pair will be able to bond an H+ atom. So both electrons come from the nitrogen. So that's a special type of coordinate. That's a special type of covalent bond called a coordinate bond or a dative covalent bond. Now, let's run through that. What are some facts about dative covalent bonds? Do you remember? Well, first of all, they are special. They're a special type of covalent bond. Secondly, they form when both electrons come from one atom. And do you remember the example? It's an ammonium ion. Ammonium ion. Okay, so let's review some covalent bonding stuff. So a covalent bond is one that contains a shared pair of electrons. And are they strong or are they weak? They're strong because the electrons are attracted to the nucleus of both atoms. So remember, that's what makes them so strong. And remember we get double and triple covalent bonds. So a double bond occurs in oxygen and a triple in nitrogen. And normally, as there are more shared pair of electrons, the bonds are stronger. So that brings us to the end of this episode talking about covalent bonding. I hope it was useful and hope it consolidated a lot of what you have covered before in class or online at Seneca. And make sure you consolidate it with even more with some reading and doing some practice. As ever, well done for being proactive with your revision and your work. And thanks for checking out this episode. I hope it was useful. Let me know what you thought of it and hopefully catch you in some of the subsequent ones. Thanks for listening.